Light Infantry, 5th Battalion, dispatch rider. I've got my motorcycle over there. We've got US Rangers. We have 2nd Battalion, Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry. 2nd Battalion, you see all dressed up in nice tropical kit. They were down in Italy working up through, whereas the 5th Battalion were on the beaches of Normandy. We've got a Soviet sniper from the Red Army, 1st SS Panzer, and Africa Corps. And Royal Artillery. Royal Artillery, they were fighting in Northern Africa and then joined the 2nd Battalion DCLI, fighting up Sicily up through Italy. There it covers. And more, 5th Battalion DCLI fellow sergeant. And he's got a jeep here with the Wyvern on the back. You see the Wyvern, the flying dragon. And it's not a dragon because a Wyvern is more aggressive than a dragon. And that's why it's called a Wyvern. Okay, so for the demonstration we're going to start with bayonets, handguns, work up rifles, submachine guns, machine guns, and then mortars. And we're not going to forget the 2-inch this time. Okay, so if you could bring forward bayonets, we'll have a look at those. And we're going to try and demonstrate as well, not just bayonets, but the weapons. Okay, so here we have the German Kar 98, and it's got a blade bayonet, sharp edge, another K98 with a bladed bayonet. That must be, I don't know, then 12-inch bayonet. The Red Army there with their cruciform spike bayonet, 18 inches long, and another Kar 98, and at the end we have the British 8-inch pig sticker bayonet. So I think we all know what the bayonets are for. The different one there goes to the 18-inch, and the British started the war with 18-inch bayonets, which came from the First World War. They were bladed, and they're used particularly for taking out mounted horsemen. And perhaps we have a short display of a mounted horseman being taken out. As you can see, quite a long reach there with that. So later on in the war, D-Day, going up through Italy, not worried too much about the mounted horsemen, so we have the shorter bayonets, and we've got the 8-inch big sticker there. As you can see, it just does its job and moves on. So we're going to have a demonstration of the use of a bayonet. And shoulder on. And beautiful. Good angry war face there. Can you imagine training for that? And or even using it? Then of course you have to be able to do that sort of thing as a soldier. Okay, great. Thanks for the bayonets. Good range there. So next up are handguns. So I can warm up with that one. So I'm a dispatch rider, riding a motorcycle, carrying ammunition, messages, that sort of thing. So I can't really carry a rifle, too awkward on a motorcycle, but I can carry a small arm. This is a Webley 38 with a 4-inch barrel. This is a revolver. Fires a .38 caliber bullet. And you see as I fire 6 rounds, refill, and then I have to refill the chamber with 6 fresh bullets. So that's called a revolver. You can see why it's a revolver. I think we've got pistols and maybe 1 revolver to show. So coming forward we have the Soviet pistol, a Tokarev TT-30. Caliber of that 7.62, so all the Russian stuff is 7.62 diameter, that's 5.3 of an inch. Using pistol rounds, and if you'd like to show how you enter it into the chamber, and actually pulls the top back. There's the magazine, 8 to 10 rounds. That pulls the hammer back, drops it forward, the round is in there, and the hammer goes off, and the hammer is, of course, what fires it. And it then recocks itself and continues firing until you run out. And then the action comes back and waits for you to reload. So that's the Tokarev pistol. And we have a German Luger coming forward with the African core. Famous Luger. Fires the famous Luger round known as the 9mm Parabellum round, used from the First World War. The action is unusual as it pulls upwards, so every time it fires it recocks by raising like that. So these are great souvenirs from the Great War and also the Second World War. And again, magazine loading from the bottom, about 10 rounds. So the 9mm Parabellum round is one that will crop up now on a regular basis. Another pistol, 9mm Parabellum round, this is the PK. And you see a nice little size there, and you could stick in your handbag. Very useful for putting out arguments there. Magazine in the back, nice and small, and James Bond used one of those, and also police forces throughout Europe. We have the P38. The 38 in that case is about the year, whereas my Webley 38 was about the caliber. So the P38, guess what, uses a 9mm Parabellum. 9mm wide and 19 mils long. 8 to 10 rounds, and the action reloads it. Great. And I think there's a demo of both of these. P38, right. As I've mentioned before, these are machines. Machines go wrong. Great, thank you. I think they were having problems with the fire pin. So the firing pin is the thing that flies forward and pokes in to the primer at the back, setting the cartridge off. Okay, so that's it for handgun. No, it's not, because we have a Colt 45, 1911. So it's an American weapon. It's a pistol. The action is, as you've seen, where it flies back, reloads. A Colt 45, a .45 of an inch. So it's quite a meaty chunk. Probably a little bit more than a 9mm round. Magazine loads in the same way, and then we have two Colt 45s. Perfect, and you can see the action there. Back arming the hammer. Okay, you're going to fire in unison, I think. Great. Handguns, not particularly accurate, but make a lot of noise, scare people. So obviously in the event of a misfire you're going to keep pointing it forward, and it's possible that a cartridge might fizzle away and could potentially go off for 30 seconds or so, but some of this modern ammo is a little bit dodgy, and some of the fire pins are a little bit dodgy, I think, as well. Okay, thank you very much. That's it for handguns. We're on to rifles. So the rifle, the name comes from the rifling inside the barrel, a groove that spirals and sends the bullet into a spin, and stabilize it makes it much more accurate. We have the Red Army coming forward with, in most of the gaps, And this is a sniper version. You can see the scope attached to the top, and because the scope gets in the way of the bolt, it has a special fold-down bolt. So most of the Gants, like all weapons you're about to see really, were made from 1860, used up until 1960, although perfectly serviceable and used up to this day. Fires 7.62 caliber and 54 mils long, so a much longer charge, and as with a lot of this ammunition, it has rims at the back, so it's rimmed ammunition. So we have a Soviet sniper from the period in Stalingrad. That's still the bloodiest battle in human history. 1.4 million died in that short 6-month battle. So as a sniper, your life expectancy wasn't particularly great, and you'd operate in twos, one firer, one spotter, and you're either sent ahead into enemy lines, ahead of enemy lines, or if you're retreating, you're left behind to try and slow them down. So life expectancy not great. And also, as you're about to see, when she fires one off, hidden in her tree, she gives away her position immediately, visually and by sound. At any one time, so we'll go for it. Any one time, there were 2,000 female snipers in the Red Army. So a pretty desperate battle for them. The Great Patriotic War, as they called it. They lost up to 28 million people. The British Empire, by contrast, in the whole of the British Empire, we lost 500,000. And in your own time. So as you can see, very easy to pick up that noise from a long range, and if it's dark, that flame as well. So obviously you'll be trying to mask that as far as possible, but as soon as you fire one shot, you've got to run. And you've got to make each shot count. So each shot would have to go for something very important. Highest ranking officer you can get, a vehicle that's going to make a big difference to the war. You're not going to bother with an ordinary soldier. One soldier dead makes no difference, but if you can get somebody very important, then that is going to make a difference. So that's the sniper of the Red Army. Now we've got a Brit of the 2nd Battalion, Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry, with a Lee Enfield 303 rifle, .303 caliber of an inch, bolt action, exactly the same as you've seen with the Gants. Holds 10 in the magazine, and the magazine can actually be removed. He's going to load it with 5 using a stripper clip, as it's called, and you can see it goes in fairly swiftly, and fire in your own time. So some of the blank ammunition doesn't feed as nicely as you might hope, whereas the live bullet has a nice bit of lead at the front, which leads it into the chamber very nicely. But some of the blanks are quite difficult. So this is a number 4. This is a later war 303. But the 303s were made from 1860, used up until 1960. And we had a cadet who was using these back in the 60s, early 70s, who was saying that as a group of cadets, they were wandering around villages with these rifles and wandering into pubs and hanging their rifles up. Back in the good old days. Okay, and firing. Yeah, so the problem with the feed there was actually because of the rimmed bullet, possibly upside down, so it was catching the one below. If you feed it the other way up, so there we are. All these things can go wrong. and which is why you work as an infantryman. You'd work with your rifle and get familiar with taking it apart, cleaning it up, and firing it.
Okay.
We've got car 98, carbine 98, of the 1st SS Panzer. Okay, 1st SS Panzer are busy talking to the Russians. There's some negotiation going on, which was before 1941 when they were allies. It was only after 41. And the war for the Soviets didn't start until after 1941, and they call it the Great Patriotic War. So it has different dates to us, and theirs finishes a day after ours, our Victory Day. So the Car 98 caliber, 7.92, so that's much bigger than the calibers you've seen so far. They look very similar, as you can see, with the woodwork, made from about 1860, right, used right through until 1960 with the main infantry of the German army. Bolt action, so each bullet, all the power from the charge goes into the bullet. None of it is used to recoil and reload. So I think we're going to get a multiple firing of Car 98, and I bet you've never seen this for real before. You might have watched some films, and they probably dubbed that sound, but there's no dubbing going on here. This is the real thing. So they are using blanks, so a blank has no lead in the front. Right, we're going for it. Very successful mission there. They can only hold 5 in the magazine, and the magazine is not removable like the British 303. Handy having a removable magazine. You can carry those and slip in a new magazine each time if you want. Get it for rifle? Yeah. I think we're on to submachine guns. So they're machine guns, but they only fire sub-sized ammunition, and sub-sized ammunition is pistol ammunition. And as we know, a pistol is only really good for 100 yards, and you put it into a submachine gun, and it's still only 100 yards, not particularly accurate. Depends how you want to use it. Normally set it single shot, and try to be as accurate as you can, but this is close-in warfare if you're using submachine guns. Fighting between buildings, perhaps, but it's going to be close-in. And we have the British Sten gun. It cost £2 to produce that in 1940s. Pressed steel, uses metric ammunition. It uses the Luger 9mm parabellum round. And there's a magazine holding up to 35 if you can squeeze the spring down hard enough. Apparently the mag can be used straight into an MP40. We'll be looking at an MP40? Yes, very shortly. Yeah, I didn't realise that. Wow. And it is the same round. These are German rounds used by the British. How about that? That's a smart move, because then we could... wow. Wow, and that magazine will fit in exactly the same? Wow. Okay, just learned something there. Now the great thing with the Sten is the magazine is at the side, so you can drop to the ground and stay low, whereas the MP40s, you see, you can drop to the ground, but your magazine is holding it up. Firing rate is the same. They use breech blocks, which fly over and back as the gun reloads itself. Oh, wow. We have a Thompson fired .45 caliber ammunition. I had somebody at the show hand me in a bunch of ammunition. They said, "Oh, I found this in the attic. What do I do with it?" So, but among it was a bunch of Thompson ammunition, 45. So this was used by the British. Rather expensive, and that's why we went to making the pressed steel ones later on.
The price of one of these, we can manufacture 20 of these. So there's a big cost difference between the two. Obviously we can use German ammo on this instead of American ammo. It's a lot easier to have the Sten than that, but this was useless compared to that one. So it's all about numbers.
Yeah, so 20 to 1. Again, every day is a learning day, in case you wonder. We'll finish off, the MP40, MP, machine and pistol, fires the Luger round exactly the same as the Sten gun. The Parabellum Luger round was particularly reliable and made from 1902, which is why we decided to use it. MP40, this one, pressed steel again, folding stock, and you had the same thing with the Sten guns as well. You could fold them to small versions like this, and paratroopers would use them. Also, motorcyclists like myself could use them as well. And before we fire anything, perhaps we'll have a look at the Soviet version of the pressed steel PPS 43. So you can see the folding stock again. This one fires 7.62 pistol rounds, and the magazine holds 30-35 rounds. Firing rate for all of these is about 600 to 800 rounds per minute. It's based on the weight of the breech block flying over the back. That's not a firing version, that's a deactivated version. But we have, and we're going for 3 Stens. And perhaps we'll have a look at MP40 first. So this is going to be fired in single shot mode as opposed to automatic. So this is how a soldier will be told to fire it initially. You don't go to automatic unless you're desperate. Well, finger getting faster each demonstration there. Okay, so we're going to have 3 Stens firing in unison. Should be fairly noisy. And we'll see how they go. Sten gun, some people said, well, it's a very unreliable weapon, and the classic story of the assassination of General Heydrich in Prague, where the Sten gun failed, and they had to use explosives to carry that out. Okay, well, let's see how we go. So, machine problems there. Probably going to be either breech block jamming issues or firing pin. Or the extractor's failed on that one. So the extractor is the one that pulls the bullet out at the end. Great. That's submachine guns. So we go for machine guns. Are we ready for that? So machine gun, automatic firing, but uses rifle bullets. So we've got the British Ren gun, which uses 303 rounds. British gun there, 303 rounds. So these are rifle rounds. This has 10 same idea, the breech block flying over and back, 600 to 800 rounds per minute. Very heavy, takes 3 men to operate one of these, and mostly they're carrying the weight of ammunition. 30 rounds in the chamber there, in the magazine. Great reliable machinery there. So you can hear that. Reconnaissance group checking out over there on the right. Yeah, so there we are. Look at it, low level there, coming in at high speed with a machine gun. They can carry a lot of ammunition. Just 2 men there operating that. And we've got the great use of the combination motorcycle and sidecar, something that the Germans particularly used. We had one regiment, I think, that used it, and it wasn't particularly used well, like this was. I think it's a very effective way of doing it. So it's the 1st SS Panzer, thank you very much. So the 1st SS Panzer, they were basically a tank regiment, and after the Battle of Stalingrad, where the Germans lost that, they surrendered 90,000 soldiers. General von Paulus was the leader of that, and he was taken in. But after that, the Soviets then moved out of Stalingrad and then engaged the 1st SS Panzer, and that was the turning point of the Second World War. Basically, the Russians had taken on 80% of all German forces and defeated them. So by D-Day, there were only 20% of the German forces left. Okay, now on to mortars, and we have a 2-inch mortar, 2 2-inch mortars, and a German 2-inch. That's probably a 50 or something. Okay, here's our mortar expert.
Wouldn't say that. We've got 2 mortars here. One's infantry British 2-inch mortar. That'd be carried by a 1-man. So that was fired off the knee, on the floor, with a round that he would have carried in his ammo pouch. You would have looked at about 8 rounds per minute on one of them, quite slow firing. But obviously the idea of a mortar is indirect fire. So if you've got someone further down behind the hedgerow, you can't see him, you can plop around him. We had HE, we had illumination for night, and we also had phosphorus smoke. It was alright, but it was by eye. So you launched one off, you kind of corrected it, and hoped the second one would get nearby. It was a basic but simple light weapon. Behind you've got the bigger 3-inch. So that one there, you're looking roughly about 53 kilos for that thing. So you're looking at 5-man group for that one. You're going to have 1 guy on the barrel, 1 guy on the tripod, 1 guy on the base plate, and the other guys will be hoofing up ammunition. The ammo for that is £10 a bomb. So you're looking at 3 per cartridge, 2 cartridges per ammo box. So you're looking at a minimum of £60 for each person to carry. When I spoke to a veteran last year, his record was 37 bombs in 1 minute at £10 a bomb. So you can imagine how much ammunition this thing would have chewed through. So you would have to constantly feed this. But the advantage with this over artillery is like in Monte Cassino, it was everything firing up high. The problem with artillery, it's heavy, it takes time to get there, hours to set up. Mortar crew can get in there, lay a load of rounds, get where it needs to go, and then it can pull out and into a safer distance. So we're going to fire off the 2-inch, let you know what that sounds like. Alright, now for the 3-inch. So the 3-inch would be a bit more than, like I said, by eye. So you'd be looking at, you'd have orders to put a round down, and then you would have the round landing. So off the back of this, there will be a correction for wind, for elevation, because you're laying in a line. So you'd have to send the second one down, they'll tell you if it's on target, and then they want 6 round high explosives coming down range. So these guys will drop these as fast as they can get them down the chute. this one would have a range of about 2,600 metres compared to the other one, which was about 500 metres. So it's a lot more effective. Again, high explosive, smoke, phosphorus. So phosphorus would have worked quite well. It's on your skin, it would irritate your skin, it would irritate your eyes, which is not a great idea for your own troops, but it makes a great smoke screen.
Take over. 2-inch German mortar. Anything to say about it? No, it goes bang, and the mortar drops overhead, so you get high explosive illumination and phosphorus. And it's a machine, I told you. And they can malfunction. Probably a firing pin issue. Beautiful. So they probably have to take that to the armourer to sort out the firing pin, make sure that every time it drops down it does go off bang. But there's now a couple of holes in the airfield, which I hope nobody will mind. We're going to finish off with a very special weapon, if we can. Are we? We're finishing with a very special German weapon. We've run out of ammunition for the special German weapon, so we'll have to leave that till next year. But there we are, it's worth the wait, 12 months.
Chris, we're going to restrike one of these.
Okay, we're going for another 2-inch mortar, German mortar. Okay, it was worth a try. The enemy are bearing down on us, but looked like the 3-inch one was pretty good. I'd go for that one. Okay, I think that completes our demonstration for today. There's nothing else, no? So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you again here at the David Stowe Cornwall at War Museum, and hope you enjoyed your day. Thank you very much.